Welcome to the neighborhood Ford store Steelers Extra Point.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome inside the KDKA studios. Happy holiday week to you, and the Steelers gave you a little bit of a gift heading into the holiday with a 24-16 win. One that didn't need to be as dramatic as it turned out to be, but it was dramatic. 24-16. The Steelers win the AFC South 4-0. Chris Hoke, welcome to our show. Bob Pompeani, Chris Hoke, and they win the South by beating every team in that division. You can look at it that way and also say 4 of their 6 wins have come against that division. So we have a lot to get into, and we'll do that for the next 2 hours plus. We'll have your calls coming up a little bit later, but in the meantime, we should start with the good, the bad, and the ugly in this game. The good was the Steelers got back to physical pounding football, and they hadn't done that last week at all. I thought they got defeated in the trenches, and they had done it in the previous 3 or 4 games, but they got back to it today, Chris, and I know that's your kind of football, smash mouth.
Well, that's my kind of football, and that's a winning recipe for the Steelers. Mm-hmm. When they came out of the bye week, they've got after it in the running game, and they controlled the line of scrimmage, and they went on to win 3 or 4 games. Then last week, they got against the Ravens, they got away from running the game. I think a lot of that was they couldn't win the line of scrimmage and got beat on both sides of the ball, and the Ravens controlled the running game. In this game, again, the Steelers got back to running the ball, and today, Bob, they had 44 carries for 157 yards. It wasn't over 4 yards a carry, but they controlled the game, and they were so good on third down because of their ability to run the football, play in and play out.
You know, we talked about this game in the next 4 and said after the Ravens game where the Steelers were manhandled in the run game at times that the teams they're playing can run the ball. We saw Carolina last week come off a 223-yard rushing performance against Seattle at Seattle, and that's what they've been doing well, but the Steelers stuffed it down, and quite frankly, I think Carolina got away from it a little bit too early in my opinion, just as the Steelers did last week, but only 21 rushing yards against. That's totally different than what we saw last week.
Steve Wilks has been ahead of the team for about, 9 weeks now? And throughout the first 8 weeks before this game, they were averaging 147 yards a game. Today, the Steelers held them to 21 yards on 16 carries. The Panthers could never get going in the running game. The Steelers were prepared. I think a lot of that, Bob, is because they were embarrassed last week, and they had to come out and show that they could stop the run. 1.3 yards a carry is really, it's like a high school team trying to run the football here in the NFL.
The other thing was time of possession, and that, of course, is a byproduct when you run the ball successfully. They had 4 drives over 10 plays. One of them was 21 plays, 91 yards. You very seldom see that. But again, critical third down conversions in this game. And despite some things that happened later with Deontay Johnson, we'll get into that, I thought he played well in terms of making critical third down conversions later in that fourth quarter when they were facing 3rd and 13, 3rd and 8. So he came up with plays when he had to.
Yeah, and they did a good job because they were able to run the football. A lot of 3rd and manageable downs there, and also on 3rd and 14 on that last drive. Great job by hitting Deontay Johnson for getting 16, 18 yards and just converting some of those big ones. So they were very efficient today. 12 of 16 on 3rd down. I mean, when you're 12 of 16, you're going to control the clock, you're going to control the game, and you're going to have W's like they did today.
All right, we have plenty to break down. We're going to hear from Mike Tomlin, players. We're going to get your analysis. We're on the air until 6 o'clock. So join us here and air your opinions a little bit later. We're just getting started. Steelers move up in the rankings, at least in terms of where they are, 6 and 8. Still out of a playoff spot. 24-16 win against Carolina, but really hurts the Carolina Panthers, who conceivably could have been in first place had they won this game, and Tampa loses to Cincinnati later. We'll talk about all that and more as we get started here. This is The Extra Point on Pittsburgh CW.
Welcome back to the neighborhood Ford store Steelers Extra Point.
All right, welcome back inside the KDKA studios. Bob Pompeani, Chris Hoke with you. Steelers win 24-16 to get to 6 and 8. They're keeping pace with the last place Browns, so they're tied for last place, and they end the season with a matchup against one another. But today, it was a case of the Steelers getting back to what they aspire to do, and that is win a physical game in the trenches and thus dominating the run game, which they did in massive style today. And Mitch Trubisky, last week we talked about turnovers, and he threw very critical interceptions when the Steelers were moving the ball in the red zone, really the key to the game. So, Chris, today it wasn't the case. They did not turn the ball over. They didn't force any either, but I think their defense came up big, especially when you saw them down on the goal line after a pass interference on Cam Sutton, 1st and goal from the 4, and they totally shut it down.
played very tough. And again, it's winning the line of scrimmage. It's coming and getting upfield and hitting running backs in the backfield. And they did that today, play in and play out. And you're talking about down there, I mean, it's just some big plays. I love that play by Alex Highsmith, shooting inside between the tight ends, coming down the line. And it looked to me like it could have been a fumble, was recovered by the Panthers. But really, it was that every single play this game. I mean, to hold a team that was running the ball so well for the last 2 months to only 21 yards, I mean, that's exceptional for the Steelers defense. You just hope that would have happened earlier in the season so they wouldn't be in the position they are right now with so many losses.
But they did invite Carolina back into this game. There was absolutely no momentum going on whatsoever when we saw two very, very egregiously bad, lack of discipline plays. One by Deontay Johnson, but they got off the hook on that one. The other one, to me, was even more ridiculous when Marcus Allen goes into their huddle. It's 4th and 27. 4th and 27. You know, they have no life in their team whatsoever. The Steelers are going to get the ball back. It's 21-7 at the time. And Chris, I don't know what he was doing, but Mike Tomlin, I mean, to me, that he'll maybe look at it as a teaching moment. That should never happen this late into somebody's career or this late into a season. That's undisciplined and it's uncalled for.
Everything you said is completely true. I mean, you just can't do that. It's 4th and 27. You have momentum. It's 21-7 in this ball game. There is no life in the Panthers team. And all of a sudden you go out there and you start talking trash to your opponent. Then you go in a special teams huddle right there. I mean, I don't even know. I can't even explain and try to explain what Marcus Allen was thinking in that moment. What it did, it gave them a first down. They went down and scored a field goal and flipped the momentum and brought the Panthers back in this game when really the Steelers were going to run away with it. This is something, there's got to be some kind of punishment there or something for Marcus Allen. That's just unacceptable to do these kind of things. And the Deontay Johnsons that you referred to earlier, I mean, even though the Steelers were able to overcome that and go down and score, what happened there, you can't taunt. He's a leader of this team. He's talked about how he doesn't care if he scores touchdowns. He's growing. He's learning how to be a leader. That is not a way to be a leader. So 2 big penalties in the second half that hurt the team. Luckily, the Deontay Johnson one was overcome by the offense.
Yeah, so you mentioned discipline. What do you think the discipline should be? There are those who say, man, that's something that can end your career. With one team when you make a play like that.
It could, and it depends how, if you're a guy that's really, it's expendable and you're not a guy that they're totally relying on, you'd be gone. It all depends on what type of player you are. Are you an A player, B player, C player? But it's stuff like that that is unacceptable and really makes Coach Tomlin look bad, right? When you have 2 of your players like that act undisciplined, several times you saw, players having to hold guys back in fights. These guys need to be held accountable for those kind of actions because those plays, those kind of actions hurt your team, and it just can't be done. So Coach Tomlin's got to step up and have some kind of punishment there for these guys.
How about players? You were in the locker room for 11 years.
Yeah.
You've seen stuff like this happen. Do players actually have a role in this as well? I'm talking about leaders like Cam Hayward.
Oh, sure.
People like that can go to him. I don't know if that's what needs to happen. It should come from head coach. But, I mean, can a player like that come in and say, wait a minute, what are you doing to get his attention?
Yeah, I mean, players can police the locker room, and you have, especially with Hayward, such a strong leader. He's a guy that speaks to a lot of these guys and look up to him because he's been around for so long. But there are some guys that just won't listen to the veterans. And so will Marcus Allen listen to the veteran? I don't know. But to me, that was just one of the most egregious things I've seen in my whole time following and playing in the NFL, to do something like that, which really hurt the team. And so Coach Tomlin's got to hold these guys accountable.
Let's see what Coach Tomlin has to say about that and his observations of this game. Let's go live to Carolina right now. Mike Tomlin ready to address the media.
We're good? All right. When you're ready, Coach.
Hard-fought game. I think we played an attrition game today. We wanted to win the line of scrimmage on both sides. I thought we were effective in doing so. I thought we ran it on offense and played behind our running game. I thought we did a good job of minimizing their run on defense, and obviously that was big because, we've been leaking here the last 6 quarters or so defensively in that area. Appreciative of the efforts. Obviously we could have played smarter in some instances. Penalties are not how we choose to live, particularly some of the 15-yard variety, and so hopefully there are opportunities to learn from that. It's good to learn with a W. I'll pause and open up for questions. Not any injuries to speak of.
Mike, you're very successful on 3rd down.
We were in manageable 3rd downs. So many of them were short yardage, and just globally, those are higher percentage plays. I mean, how many sneaks did we have? And so, oftentimes 3rd down success is not about how you're operating, but it's about the distance. And we were in 3rd and short, and, those are consistently more makeable than the longer ones. I will add, though, we did have some significant longer ones that we needed, and that one there at the latter part of the game we hit Deontay was a big one.
Mike, what did you like about the way that Mitch played today? Had a clean game, no turnovers?
I just thought he managed it well. I thought he kept the ball off the ground and played clean, had a high completion percentage, but it's easier to do those things when you're playing behind an effective run game. Can't say enough about our big dudes up front and how they controlled it.
But that drive to start the second half and the way you were able to grind it out and take over 11 minutes off the clock, how big?
21 plays, great job by them, but obviously not what we want in terms of a drive start, and that's kind of reflective of the penalty component I was talking about in the opening statement.
The run game had been really hot coming in here. What did you do? What did you see in the tape?
We threw a little schematics at it, some personnel groups. Like we talked at the beginning of the week, they put unique big people packages on the field. You got to match that. I thought we did with DeMarvin Leal. I thought he did a good job. But more than anything, I just think there's nothing mystical about dealing with the run. Usually it's about guys coming off blocks and making tackles.
Might you use a lot more base defense, even a few four-man lines in there?
Well, they were using big people, so we were using big people.
How impactful was Jalen Warren, and what was the emotion like when he scored his first NFL career touchdown?
He's been a significant contributor all year, and he was slow there a couple weeks back with an injury. He missed a game, but he's a component of what we do. We got a great deal of confidence in him in all circumstances, and really that confidence is born out of the consistency in which he performs.
Mike, you mentioned the penalty component a couple times. How significant was that one on Marcus Allen before the punt?
It's 3 points.
What did he do on that play?
I don't know. It was in a dead period. We were making adjustments on the sideline, and so I didn't have eyes on it. I don't know if any of us had eyes on it.
Mike, Ellis Williams with the Charlotte Observer. Could you speak to the job Steve Wilkes has done with the Carolina Panthers and what you saw?
I don't follow it week to week. I got a lot of respect, obviously, for him as a coach and as a coaching peer and what they're trying to get done down here. Obviously, it's a difficult time, but I hadn't followed it in totality, so I don't have real perspective there. I just was getting ready to play him this week.
Anything else?
That was Deontay's most productive game of the season. What did it mean for him to contribute so much, especially on Thursday?
He's better equipped to answer that than I am.
Good.
Yeah.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
All right, Mike Tomlin, short and sweet after a game, and talked about the winning the line of scrimmage, the trenches, and really I thought the offensive line, early in the game especially, a lot of their run plays went to the left side. They followed Dan Moore, who I thought was really excellent. We talk a lot about situations where he's getting beat on plays, specifically pass plays, but I thought he was really good. So was Dotson today. We'll get back to that in a second. But right now, Alex Highsmith with a homecoming down in Carolina. Let's hear from him.
It's just cool, coming back and just being able to play here. It's just, feeling I can't describe. So I'm just grateful.
How many tickets did you get? Because obviously you have a lot of support.
It's a lot. That's all you need to know. It's a lot. But I got a lot of family and friends in town, so I'm excited to see them.
Obviously, it was good to get at the sack, but at the same time, you guys only had 21 yards rushing against. What happened over the past 6 quarters? What did it mean for you guys to get this stop?
Yeah, we knew that was emphasis because we knew the type of running game that they had. They have a really good couple backs, and so we knew to win the game we had to do that. In the past couple weeks, that wasn't ourselves, but I think it started. We had a great week of practice. Honestly, one of our best week of practices, in a while, and so I think that's where it started, and we really set the game, from the first drive, stopping the run, and so that's why we were successful because we were able to stop the run.
What are you guys doing better to attack the quarterback? Obviously, had the back-to-back sacks, but just overall, it seemed like we're getting a bit more pressure than you had to expect.
Yeah, just continue to mix up our rush games. Not throwing the same thing at them, but throwing different games and stuff at them. So I feel like we were able to get them off the spot. When we were able to get them off the spot, it caused a lot of helter skelter. So we were able to get back there, and so that's why we were able to just get to them today.
Alex, from the offensive piece, you have these long grind drives. Does that help you guys on the defense?
Oh my gosh, that drive was amazing. 21 plays. I think it was 21 plays. That's the longest drive I've ever seen. Like witnessed with my own 2 eyes. I don't think I've ever seen a drive that long. And so we were just on the sideline tick, 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 let the clock keep ticking. And so, but shout out to the offense for that amazing drive and starting the second half in that way because that gave us a lot of momentum.
Obviously, they've been hot with their run game. What did you see? The coach said y'all did see schematic changes to match their power.
Yeah. I think we did a good job. I think DeMarvin Leal Coming in, stepping up, bringing another big body on the field like him, just kind of helped us be more stout in the run game when they brought their extra bodies in. So, we just had a good mindset coming into the game, and that's just what it was. And so we just got to continue to, because we know we got a good running team coming again this week, and so we just got to continue to have that same mindset every week because we know the type of defense we can be, and so we just got to continue that.
All right. Thanks, Alex.
Thank you, guys.
Alex Highsmith with a really good day today, running down people. There was a tackle for loss on that sequence we talked about earlier when there was first and goal from the 4-yard line after the PI, and he made a really good play. And he was very active today, came around the edge. There was a point earlier in the season where he was leading the NFL in sacks, but I think you continue to see the maturation of his game.
Absolutely, and it's big to have the sack today. He was able to go home and get the sack in front of a hometown family and friends, and he hadn't had a sack in 2 games, and the Steelers rely on that. You saw when this game, really, the Steelers took over. They had 4 sacks. They had 3 in the second half, and that's when they're at their best, when they're able to put pressure on the quarterback, and that's because when you look at those moments, the Steelers had them in 3rd and long. When you talk about the success of the Steelers on 3rd down, it's because they were 3rd and short primarily. Some 3rd and long, but mostly 3rd and short. You look at here, the sacks came on 3rd and long, where they don't have to worry about could it be a run, be a pass. They can pin their ears back, get off the ball, and get after the quarterback, and that's when they're able to control the game, is when they can get after the quarterbacks.
They certainly can. And Cam Hayward, I often talk about Cam Hayward, his willingness to never quit on a play. I mean, he tracks people down. He runs them down from behind. He's a big guy. You wouldn't expect that from someone who's on that defensive line in his 12th year, but Cam Hayward continues to do that, and he never quits on a play.
He's a true professional, right? And just because he does it in the game, because he does it in practice. And that's where it comes from. It's a guy who has great practice skills and great practice tempo. He takes it into the game. And that's what a lot of these younger players for the Steelers can learn from a Cam Hayward. He does it all the time. And you watch him, great technique, great effort, running down the field, making big plays and big moments, and that's the kind of professional the Steelers need these younger guys to develop into, to keep this thing, for this season to be one of those ones that are a growth experience for a lot of the young players.
All right, let me get back to my previous point before Alex Highsmith spoke, and that was the offensive line, specifically the left part of it, because I really thought Dan Moore had maybe his best game of the season. He wasn't called for a penalty, and we've expected that at least once a game, so that's good. What about him and his performance?
Well, I think Dan Moore Jr. has done a great job in the run game for the season. It's where he struggled at times in the pass game with penalties, but today they love to run behind him. He gets a lot of movement, him and Dotson. They move people, and so that's why they want to continue to run behind the left side, even though they do like the right side. The left side is where they get a lot of movement.
Mitch Trubisky, winning quarterback today. Let's go live to Charlotte.
Through the run game today, O-line did a great job all day long. The backs ran hard. We were efficient on 3rd down, and that helped us came away with the victory. So it was an emphasis this week that we're going to pound the ball, lean on that O-line in the run game, and they did a great job creating holes for the running backs, and it makes my job easier. Staying ahead of the chains was huge, and then being efficient on 3rd down to extend those long drives was critical for us today.
21-play drive, you've been involved in one of those before?
That might have been the longest I've been a part of. It's huge to cap it off with a touchdown. Just great job by the O-line up front. They did a great job protecting me on 3rd down and then creating those holes for the run game. So that's a long drive, and I think that really set the tone for the rest of the game, coming out with a 21-play drive like that and capping it off with a touchdown. Just a lot of credit to those O-line up front. They did a phenomenal job. Backs ran hard, and we made great catches on 3rd down.
You had 2 big ones from Johnson on that kind of clock-killing drive at the end, 2 3rd downs. Did you get what you thought you were on those? Did you just kind of develop? Did you talk about those a little bit?
No, we studied a lot on 3rd down this week. We got our matchups. I was going to Deontay. He was winning. He won on like a 5-step little short post, and then he won on a hitch versus man. So I was just going to him in those situations. He did a great job. Trusting me on those timing throws and getting open, so that was huge for us, and O-line did a great job protecting.
Mitch, for you personally, you talked all week about wanting to bounce back after the 3 interceptions last week. Just how good did it feel to come out and have a clean game, not turn the ball over and get the win?
Feels great. Only thing I cared about today was winning, staying on the field, converting those 3rd downs, and helping this team win. So though it was an emphasis all week, I know I could protect the football, and that's what I did today. So I'm just proud of all the other guys for sticking together, believing in me, letting me lead us today, and coming away with a victory. So it definitely feels good, and it's awesome.
How good was it those first 2 drives also get down and get touchdown?
It was huge. Coach T made an emphasis like we got to start fast this game because we know what they have on the other side with their run game as well. So we wanted our run game to start faster, and we wanted to start the game coming out front. So scoring the first drive, we had the football. That was definitely huge and set the tone the rest of the game. And then we get the ball at halftime, and we do that 21-play drive. So we wanted to start fast. We wanted to stay ahead the whole game, and the plan was executed.
Mitch took a ball with you off the field. Anything?
No, someone gave it to me, so I just
No.
I thought that ball might be important, so I was just going to hang on to it just in case. Somebody gave it to me, yeah.
Did it end up being important?
We got the win, so that was important.
What was your rapport like with Deontay? 10 targets,
Yeah.
10 catches, so they wouldn't kind of clicking.
It was awesome. He just was locked in all week. We had a great game plan, and he was getting open for me all day. I just trust him to get open. I trust in his ability, and we had great timing, and he was winning on his routes. So I think if you just continue to trust in the offense and this plan, I'm going to go to him and get open. He did a great job on third down and getting open all day for me. So anybody can have a day like that. It just depends what the defense is taking away, who they're putting on him, and he did a great job believing in the plan and making plays when he was open. So it was good.
What did it mean to be a part of Jalen Warren's first touchdown?
Oh, awesome. That was his first touchdown? I thought he definitely scored before. Jalen's been running so hard. We just got to continue to get him the football in different ways. He runs very aggressive, and we love to see him with the football in his hands. O-line did a great job, and he had a pretty good touchdown celebration, too, with those dance moves in the end zone, so that was fun to see. He's a great kid. We just got to continue to get him the ball, and the O-line did a great job creating holes for him.
Mitch, were there any plays where you thought about taking a chance or maybe making a little risky throw and then thought, nah, don't go there?
Were there?
Yeah.
Not really. I was just really thinking about taking what they were giving us. We had a couple of chances to be aggressive downfield. They gave us a different look, so I either checked it down or we had a different route pattern that ended up hitting. But most importantly, it was being efficient on third down. I think that was huge for us today, staying on the field and leaning on that run game. But the emphasis was protect football, and that's what I did today.
Mitch, it's not just about maybe bouncing back from last week, but what does it mean to you to get not only to start, but a win as a starter? Is that vindication at all? Because it's been a while since you've started and won a game.
I know what I can do in this league. More so, just like it feels good to be able to get this opportunity and then come through, have my teammates trust in me, and then we just had a plan and we executed it. So it feels good to win. And anytime you start the game, anytime you're part of a team, it's always better when you win. So I'm just proud of these guys today.
Mitch, I'm sorry if somebody asked, did you play with any more caution in terms of protecting the football today?
Protected the football. Yeah, we did. That was the emphasis, and I was going to do that today, and I thought we did, and it helped us win the game.
Anything else? All right.
Thanks guys.
Yep.
All right, that's Mitch Trubisky, who managed the game, as Mike Tomlin said, and obviously was very aware of not turning the ball over. But let's get back to that 21-play drive, because it's the second longest in NFL history since 2001. There's only one more that went longer. It was a 24-play drive between New Orleans and Carolina. It resulted in a blocked field goal. So they got no points out of the 24-play drive. And in this one, the Steelers not only got 21 plays, but they got a touchdown. I think that was significant, Chris, because in this game, 3 of their drives, 12 plays, 10 plays, 21 plays, all ended up in touchdowns, not field goals.
Absolutely, and here's what happens. When you beat a team up like this, when you're moving the ball, moving the ball, and you're primarily running the football, you're taking a little bit of football life out of your opponent. And at this point in the game, Bob, it was 21-7. They just came off a 21-play drive. Man, it consists of 11 minutes and 43 seconds. That defense is gassed. And you took about a little bit of their soul in that drive, and then you could come back and they do the 27, what is it, 3rd and 27 out there, 4th and 27, and that's when you have the Marcus Allen penalty, which shifted momentum. If you went from completely controlling the game to having the momentum, that's why it's so egregious what Marcus Allen did, because on that drive, you set the tempo, you controlled the game, you took over the game in that moment, and only something like what Marcus Allen did can turn the game back into the Panthers' favor.
Yeah, and they got back into it as a result. There's no question about that. Mitch Trubisky on the day, 17 for 22, 179 yards, and the quarterback sneak has come into play. I mean, he was really good at it today. Every time they needed a third down, if it wasn't Derek Watt, and he's been Mr. Perfect third down. It was Mitch Trubisky.
It was, and Mitch Trubisky, I think he had, 3 quarterback sneaks, 1 for a touchdown, and that's because they were consistently in third and shorts, and that's why today they were 12 for 16 on third down, Bob. But that QB sneak, something we didn't see with Ben Roethlisberger, we're seeing week in and week out now, and now we're seeing a lot more quarterback sneaks where you have a guy motioning behind the quarterback, giving him a little aid to get across that first down marker. But it's fun to see because it means that you're doing good things on first and second down.
He made a couple of good throws down the field, too. You could talk about protecting the football, but when you have to make plays, George Pickens, every game we come away saying, wow, on at least one play. Now, he only had 2 receptions today, but the one that he made for 38 yards, man, those are strong hands. He goes up and he just takes it away from people.
Both hands right off the back of the defender, and he only had 2 catches. Like you said, those both came in the first half. Didn't have any catches in the second half, but when he catches the ball, it's electric, it's exciting, it's energizing because of the way he does it. And I see him having a very bright future with the Steelers. And when George Pickens, you see him grow, you'll see him to start make plays like that multiple times a game because that's the kind of player he is.
Rich Walsh is in the locker room. We're going to have more locker room interviews coming up as we continue here on the Extra Point. And then later we'll take your phone calls on a special edition of the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call. But next, more locker room reaction following a Steeler win. They came on strong early in this game, dominating time of possession, putting it away late, 24-16 your final score. We're back right after this.
Welcome back to the Neighborhood Ford Store Steelers Extra Point.
All right, welcome back to the program. Our number 1 Cochran player of the game is Deontay Johnson, despite that taunting penalty. 10 for 10. He got targeted 10 times, 10 receptions, 98 yards, 1 rush for 2 yards. It's really his best game of the year. Still no touchdowns. And he's, moving up in terms of record setting, most catches in a season without a touchdown. He's now on that list where he's approaching 80 catches, yet no touchdowns, but he's getting closer.
That's so interesting to me. But for me, the big thing was his third down catches, Bob. I mean, in that last drive, really took, 4 minutes and 20 seconds off the clock and kicked that field goal to make it a 2-score game. He had a 3rd and 6 that he converted with a 9-yard catch, and he had a 3rd and 14 that he also converted with a 16-yard catch and run. So really, at the end of the day, he is not only making big catches, but big catches on third down, which really is important to control the game, control the clock, and keep moving.
When you control the game, though, you do it in the run game, and the Steelers certainly did that. You like Najee Harris when he's angry.
I do.
We got those angry runs. You should see Chris Hoke up there when people are running angry. He gets angry in a good way. You like that, didn't you?
No, I do like it a lot. Najee Harris, he ran hard today, and what I liked, he was making people miss. He really showed his physicality in the run game, and that's what he's best at. When he runs with that kind of temperament, he's able to throw guys down. He's able to run through people, and to me, it starts up front. Is the offensive line gives him an ability to gain momentum as he approaches the line of scrimmage versus getting the ball, and within 1 yard, he's got to make a move. So that is having impact on his running game. But when he goes out there, Bob, we're not seeing a lot of negative 2 yards, 1 yard, 0 yard carries. We're seeing 6 yards, 8 yards, 9 yards, 2 yards, and then back at the 6. That's the kind of running game we need to see out of Najee Harris for the rest of his career, to be honest.
Rich Walsh in the locker room spoke with Najee Harris earlier. Let's roll that video.
It was good. You talking about the 21 play drive? Or are we talking about, the 21 play? So that was something good because that was our first drive coming out too, right? If I can remember. Yeah. So that was one thing I said coming in the half. I said, we got to come out starting fast because sometimes we come out starting slow. So for us to take that much time off, and we knew it was going to be a game of possessions because they was going to run the ball, we was going to run the ball. So for it to come down to the game of possessions and us take off probably 11 minutes or something like that. Yeah, we took off 11 minutes on the sideline after we put it in the end zone. I was just telling everybody, that's how you run the ball. That's how you control the clock and help out the defense because, that's what we talked about going in. We knew it was going to be a possession game, so I think we did a good job of executing on that.
You guys did that on the first drive, too, with a long 7-minute drive to get that play.
Exactly. Yep.
Same thing.
Yep. Because, like I said, we knew it was going to be and coming down to possessions. I think the first half we probably only had the ball 2 times, if I can remember. Yeah. So, like I said, that was something that we knew, and that was something that we had to take advantage of. Anytime we had the opportunity to get the ball and score, and put the team up, we have to control the clock and give our defense a break and keep them off the field because, like I said, we knew it was going to come down to the game today.
What was the key to converting all those third downs? You guys, I think it was 11 or 14.
Yeah, and we did good. But that just comes down to the opportunities because we knew, like I said, coming back, I know I said the same thing, but we knew it was going to be a game of possession. So we knew we had to execute on third downs, and we have to run the ball efficiently because, the possessions was important in this game.
For your touchdown run in the first half, were you looking to run the guy over at the goal line?
Oh. I was looking to get in the end zone. You funny.
How much did the run game that you guys had today help Mitch out? Just it seemed like he had a really clean effect.
Yeah. We wanted to make it as simple as possible. We believe in our O-line. We know how good they are, so we felt confident in us taking control of the clock by running the ball and helping out Mitch or whoever was in the game. Mitch did a good job, though. Like I said, we're confident with whoever's in the game. And I think Mitch did a great job today, converting on the third down, making good throws, man. He's putting in tight windows. So, tip our hat off to Mitch.
How good was it to see him have a bounce-back game after
Yeah.
the 3 interceptions?
Yeah, it was good. Like I said, for Mitch to come in there, and with Mitch, he never takes anything like that to the head. He doesn't think about it. If he makes a mistake, he just goes on and worry about the next play. So Mitch is a great leader, man. He's been around playing football for a long time, so he knows how to handle adversity.
High praise right there for Mitch Trubisky from Najee Harris. But again, the run game has a lot to do with, how this team fares. And we saw it again today, 45 official rushes for 156. That average is only 3.5. I mean, obviously better averages, but it was a commitment to it. And what is the effect when a guy like Najee Harris is running downhill, and what does it do to the defense?
Well, it's demoralizing for a defense, right? When you're getting after defense, you're still in their grasp. You're knocking them back. When you see Najee Harris stiff-arming you and throwing you down, it just takes your soul as a defender. And so that's why it's so important that the Steelers stick with the run, because when they come out, Bob, not doing RPOs, but they come out in running formations and different type of personnel packages and different type of groupings, that's when they're able to get after defenses and be able to move the chains. When you're an offensive lineman and a run is called, but you don't know if it's going to be a pass, you can't be as aggressive. You can't come off the ball and try to get after the guy in front of you or the defender you're supposed to block. Now, since the bye week, the Steelers have said, listen, we're going to line up. We're going to come out in different personnel packages that are running packages that are going to allow our guys to peel their ears back, come off the ball, and knock them off the ball. And that's helping Najee. Again, like I said, he's able to get momentum attacking the line of scrimmage versus getting no momentum again behind that big 245-pound frame, and he's not able to get going.
And Jaylen Warren has certainly helped him, too, coming in there. 11 carries today. He runs hard as well. I like the way he runs. Yeah. Sometimes the numbers aren't going to be there, but, man, he wants to inflict pain on the defender, it seems to me.
They love Jaylen Warren, and he does a great job of complimenting Najee Harris. It's a great 1-2 punch because Najee's the big bruiser, and Jaylen Warren, even though he's a little smaller, he can still bruise you up, too. He likes to run over people. He loves contact, but that quickness, put that foot in the ground, quick to speed and get up into the gap has been a special thing for the Steelers offense right now. He's really good in blitz pickup, too, Bob. He gave up a sack today. He was part of that, but overall, throughout the entirety of the season, he's done a great job of stepping up and solidifying that pocket, whether it was for Kenny Pickett or Mitch Trubisky.
No question about that. He will take it on, and he's done well in blitz pickup. Right now, let's hear from Jaylen Warren in the locker room after the win.
Prior to that, I was just like, I got to get in there. I'm trying to get in there.
I guess it has to be pretty good the way you guys ran the ball in general today.
Yeah, I mean, it all happened because the O-line, you can really tell that they're coming along and it's showing out on Sundays.
I guess one of the more important drives, maybe the turning point of this game, was that 21-play drive. You don't see that too often.
I know. I didn't even know it was 21 plays until, he just said it, and I was like, wow, I didn't know that.
And maybe the biggest key was the third down conversions for you guys. That was one of the better performances for you guys this year.
Yeah, and you can feel it. I feel like everybody can feel like us coming together for real. It's a good feeling being a part of it.
What do you say about the balanced offensive attack today? You guys really able to step up and help Mitch out today?
I think it was good. Everybody knew what to do. Our preparation throughout the week, really showed today. So I think, with us executing, our jobs, it helped them out a lot.
Like a good running back, like a rookie, he complements his offensive line. Those guys need to be treated well at Christmas time, and I'm sure the running backs will take care of him.
Absolutely.
And really, we talked about their line early in the season. They've gotten progressively better, especially in the run game, and it's good that they're using that. But Warren's a guy who knows how to follow those blocks. And again, for an undrafted guy, for someone who came in here and did not have a legit opportunity, it seemed, to make this roster, what with guys like Benny Snell and Anthony McFarland on it, he just moved right ahead of him, didn't he? And why was that the reason?
He did. Well, listen, he came out of Oklahoma State, and he had a ton of yards his senior year there at Oklahoma State. And one of the reasons why he was an undrafted free agent, Bob, was because of his size. And that's one thing. Me coming out and being an undrafted free agent at a BYU and playing for 11 years, sometimes you get, you get designation. This guy's undersized, so he doesn't get drafted, or he won't come in. He won't be one of our top guys. And Jalen Moore's the same thing. He was an undersized guy, but he's come in here and he's shown that the heart and the soul of him is much bigger than his physicality and his physicalness of his body. And so now you look at this guy, he's coming in here, he's, like you said, jump Benny Snell. He jumped Anthony McFarland, and he's shown that he and Najee can be a great complementary team for many years to come.
Yeah, we're going to hear from those offensive linemen. They don't get a lot of airtime, but they will today a little later in our broadcast. But right now, here is the scoring summary for this game. In case you're out doing something and missed it, Najee Harris started off. And again, the key here is the Steelers scored touchdowns, not field goals, when they had long drives. They capitalized with a 7-yard run there. Sam Darnold came right back. He passed the ball right down the field on that first one. I was wondering what the pass defense was doing. It's DJ Moore who scored 7 apiece, and then it's Warren, another big long drive. Trubisky was the 1-yard touchdown that followed a 21-play drive, the second longest drive since 2001 in the NFL. That's pretty amazing. And then a couple of late Pinero field goals that really made it a one-possession game after some undisciplined penalties by the Steelers, specifically Marcus Allen. Boswell put it away for all intents and purposes. But even on that 52-yard field, the onside kick after that, you don't have to touch the ball if you're the Steelers. And I was wondering, Deontay Johnson touched it before 10 yards. It has to go 10 yards or else it won't work.
It makes you in that moment if Deontay knew the rules, right? Because you're right. He had to go 10 yards before they could touch it, unless the Panthers touched it first. And Deontay Johnson went for it to touch that ball. And that's just, you've got to understand the rules in that moment. So hopefully it'll be an opportunity for Danny Smith to coach him up, because it didn't hurt him at that moment, but it could hurt him in the future.
Yeah, it certainly could have. All right, we'll take a break here. We have more interviews coming up. And then we'll ask you for your opinions as we open up the lines for the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call, all following a Steeler win to get to 6 wins, 8 losses. Next up will be the big Immaculate Reception game against the Raiders on Christmas Eve. We'll talk more about that as we go along. There's your final score. The Steelers win on the road at Carolina. They win the AFC South. Get those hats printed. They're 4-0 against or the NFC South. They beat them all. Tampa, New Orleans, Atlanta, and today Carolina. We're back after this.
Welcome back to the Neighborhood Ford Store Steelers Extra Point.
All right, here we go to the final stats brought to you by JP Roofing. Chris, have at it.
Well, I look at this right now. The turnovers are big because they didn't turn the ball over. But to me, what stands out is the 36 minutes. That is a plus, 12.5-minute difference in the time of possession. That's the difference in the game, Bob. And the reason why it comes down to third downs. Look at that, first downs, because of all the third downs that they converted. 12 for 16 on third down, giving so many first down opportunities. That's where they controlled the game. That's why they won today.
And it was funny because the first drive of the second half of the Steelers occupies almost 12 minutes.
Yep.
And Carolina had 0 all the way across the board because they never touched the ball.
Never touched the ball.
And that's what that kind of thing, and it really is debilitating for a defense to have that much time on the field, and then your offense gets back, and the third quarter is almost over at that point. So very interesting, and a lot of that has to do with the run game, ball possession, but also the defense. When they had to make plays, especially later in the game, they came up with tackles for losses and sacks. TJ Watt was among them. Let's hear from him in the locker room.
Doesn't mean anything if we don't build on it.
After that penalty, the defense kept him. You guys kept him out of the end zone. How important was that in the fourth quarter, the way you guys played?
Yeah, it's huge. And I mean, I think we had a 21-play offensive drive, too, so that was huge to be able to kickstart us as a defense. And anytime we get on the field, on a short field, we want to hold them to as few points as possible.
I guess one of the big stats is their third down conversion rate, too, and plus time of possession. They would go hand in hand, but the way you guys held them to the third down, how important was that?
Huge. I mean, that's a huge element of it. When you're smashing around first and second down, you have to be able to get off the field on third down. But like I said, it's a short week, so you can't really focus too much on what we just did.
TJ, what can you say about the second half performance? This defense really stepped it up.
Yeah, it's one of those things where, I mean, it feels like the last couple of years we've kind of come out flat from halftime, and it was a big emphasis to come out guns blazing after the half. And I don't know if we did that to the fullest of potential, but feel good about how we did it.
That's TJ Watt, who had a sack in this game. Let's talk about him because he's coming back from, he had obviously the pec injury, then he had a knee scope, then he had ribs, and you could tell that he wasn't the same for the last couple of weeks. He looked better today, more active and more willing to use his left side.
Yeah, and he's more explosive off the ball, right? And the thing about TJ Watt, when he's healthy, he fires off the ball. He's in the backfield. He's putting pressure on the quarterback. Even when he's not getting sacks, Bob, or he's not getting tackles for a loss, he's a reason why somebody else is getting a tackle for a loss or a sack. And you saw that multiple times today. And he is getting healthier. He is coming along. And that's what I think you'll see big games out of him in the last 3 weeks of the season.
Yeah, and they have 3 games against teams that, again, can run the ball well, so it starts up front with guys like TJ Watt and also Cam Hayward. Can't say enough about Cam Hayward. Again, not that he's an old man. I mean, I don't want to tell him that because I'm afraid of the response. But he's 12 years in the league, and I think some of his best football has happened after the age of 30, and it continues today.
Yeah, he's just a pro. Like I said, he's a physical guy. He plays with impeccable technique, and he hustles on every single play. It's like it's the last play he's ever going to play, and that's the kind of captain you want as a guy that leads your team. And you watch today, he had big sacks and big moments. He's sack and a half. He shared that one with TJ Watt and big plays in the run game. And you know what he does, though, Bob? He makes, again, we talk about TJ Watt and how he makes everybody else better. Cam Hayward takes on a lot. Takes a lot of double teams. He's able to do things that allow other guys to free up and make plays as well.
There's no question about that. And guys like Ogunjobi, when he gets in there, take advantage of that, although I'd like to see more from him. But in the meantime, Cam Hayward is one of these guys who was critical of his own teammates last week after their performance against the Ravens. So he got what he was looking for today. Let's hear what he had to say after the game.
Rally to the ball in the run game, and they were behind the chains a lot of times. They converted a couple times, but I thought for the most part we did a great job of, being stout up front.
I mean, their longest run was only 5 yards. You know that?
I didn't know at the time, but that's a testament to guys just buying in this week. It's a process that's got to keep growing and got to keep getting better from.
After the past 6 quarters with the rush defense, how important was that to shut down a team like that?
We said this is going to be a 9-7 game. We knew there weren't going to be a lot of possessions. We needed to get off quick. The times we did, it was really beneficial. I know we gave them a touchdown early, but I thought even when they got down the red zone, we really were stout in the run game.
Maybe the second half was a little more important because of that penalty and then the way you guys kept him out of the end zone there in the third and fourth quarter.
Yeah, we get off the field. We have to go back on the field. But I like the way our defense just kept fighting. We almost got out of there with no points. But I just like the way we competed and kept fighting for every blade of grass.
Talking about the run game, 21 yards. I mean, that's a nice bounce back from what happened last week.
Needed it. Can't say any more about it. We got the job done today, but it's a ever-going process that we got to keep getting better from.
And because of that, you didn't see, guys get into the second level a lot, which made life easier for the linebackers and the secondary guys. But it starts with those guys up front. There's no question about it. Him specifically, and he seemed to really be active up the middle. Took advantage of either guard and the center at times today.
Yeah, and the thing about him, he has long reach, right? So he's able to get extension, and if they can't hold him, they can't block him. And so he's getting long extension on these guys and be able to make moves like you saw that swim move on the center. You got up and got that sack. When he comes down the line, that's when I talk about his technique. He plays the old school way of Steeler football where you're able to play square to the line of scrimmage, hands extended, and get off blocks and make plays, and that's why he's been a special player for so many years for this defense.
Real quick, let me ask you about Larry Ogunjobi. You see him once in a while in there, he makes a big play, and then he goes silent a little bit. Is that the way it's been with him, or why is it happening that way?
Well, yeah, I mean, today he made a few more plays than normal, but what I've seen with Ogunjobi, he's a big, strong guy, right, Bob? He's explosive. He'll come in, he'll make a play, get in the backfield, and he'll blow up a play and get a tackle for a loss, and then he'll disappear for a series or two. It's because his technique needs to improve. He needs to be better to do what we talked about with Cam Hayward. Better technique, better hand extension, playing more with your hands than your shoulder where they can hold you and get you twisted up on the line of scrimmage.
All right, let's take a look at the leading tacklers in this game because at the top of the list, someone you may not have expected, Robert Spillane. Although, Chuba Hubbard beat him down the field once as he lost his outside gap, whatever you want to call it. But Hubbard went 49 yards the other way at his expense. Terrell Edmonds, I thought, Terrell Edmonds is a guy who's had a tremendous season. There's Ogunjobi, Highsmith. Devin Bush made some tackles early in this game, then you see Cam. But again, there are some pressures in there and things that do not show up in the stat column. What about, we didn't see Miles Jack today. Injured.
Injured.
And Devin Bush, your thoughts about him? Because we seem to weekly talk about his progress or not so much.
I think it's a good thing Miles Jack didn't play it. He's been banged up. You know, it was documented that people didn't know if he was going to play. Then he was walking around like he was going to play. A good thing to sit him down because I think, you know, we've seen him kind of fall off in the last month or so of the season. And I believe it's because of the injuries, because he's out there just fighting and being a warrior on the field, but it's not showing up in his play. And you look at a Devin Bush. I mean, Devin Bush, he's got to take that step, and he's just not getting there yet. And now my biggest concern is we say, he had a nice game because he had a tackle or two early in the game. As a 10th overall pick, he's got to have big impact. Roquan Smith last week, right? Patrick Queen last week. That's what the kind of impact we're looking for. And so right now, Devin Bush has got to step up, be more physical, and be more of a first-hitter mentality as an inside linebacker on the Steelers defense.
All right, I want to talk to you about Southern Comfort. You might like that at this time of the day. We've been here for a while, yeah. Well, the Steelers have had a lot of Southern Comfort down there in the NFC South. 4-0, as I said. They win the South today, but the disturbing thing is 2-8 against the rest of the NFL. Largely the better teams they've played, they've lost to. So what do you make of this graphic and the fact that they took advantage of the South? But man, you got to beat some of the better teams when you have a chance.
Well, listen. The only thing that concerns me is the NFC South. There's not one good team in that division right now. You look at it, and the Bucs are playing right now against the Bengals. But when you look at those four teams, none of them have a winning record. I don't believe that they have really a winning record against any other conference or division in the NFL. And so that doesn't really give me a lot of encouragement looking at that. They're 4 of their 6 wins. 2/3 of their wins, Bob, are against a really bad division.
And they have a team next week that's been up and down, bad and good, in the Raiders. But they're capable of putting some points on the board. And they got a pass game that when it's on, it's pretty good. How do you see that game playing out?
Well, Josh Jacobs is averaging over 5 yards a carry. So another opportunity for the Steelers to show if they're taking a step in the right direction and shutting down the run. But now you have a Derek Carr who's, I would say, a little bit better than Sam Darnold at throwing the football, and they have some weapons there. So it's going to be a challenge for the Steelers. But the Raiders have really struggled this year to put games together week in and week out. Very inconsistent as a ball club.
Yeah, interesting. Just a little bit ago, we saw the overtime finish to Kansas City. Yeah. You know, they were in overtime in Houston. You know, they're looking upset down there. It was 24-24. They go to overtime, and then Mahomes can't move them. They end up punting the ball. Davis Mills then hit from behind. He fumbles, and as he did, they were in scoring position instantly was Kansas City. And one play later, I think it was McKinnon who got a touchdown run right up the middle, untouched basically in the end zone. So Kansas City 11-3. We'll talk playoffs and implications a little later here as we go along. Meantime, we here at KDKA are very saddened by the death of one of the guys who is in this studio all the time during this program, and he's been here for 20-plus years, Greg Sparks, a man who was really tremendous at what he did here, passed away this week. And operations department, one of the best there. He battled through some things at the end of his life, and he continued to battle as hard as he could. But at the age of 65, Greg Sparks, we certainly send our best to his family, the people who've been near him at the end. Just a really difficult situation to go through. 65 years of age, that's way too young. Rest in peace, Greg Sparks. You did us all proud here at KDKA.
Welcome back to the Neighborhood Ford Store Steelers Extra Point.
All right, welcome back as we continue here on the Extra Point. We're talking about the AFC playoff picture, which right now features Buffalo at the top. They win a tiebreaker with the Chiefs, who came out today with a win, even though it looked like they may lose down in Houston. Cincinnati's playing Tampa Bay right now. Tennessee has the final spot, and because of Jacksonville's situation, they lost a game today. They came back, took the lead, lost to Dallas, it looks like, so Tennessee will end up there. The wild card, the Ravens, who did not look good last night, Miami, and then New England. The problem is with New England, as you see the teams in the hunt, and you can put the Steelers in there along with the Browns, Chris, is that New England has a tiebreaker over the Steelers. So essentially that 2-game difference is like a 3-game difference. So you have to, you really I mean, they came into today with a 2% chance I saw on some of these things. So even with a win, it does not improve all that much.
No, it doesn't. And you look at right now, there's a lot. That's the unfortunate thing about the Steelers not playing so well in the first half of the season, or really largely throughout the season, is that it comes down to tiebreakers. And first they look at your division. Then the Steelers aren't doing very well there. I think they got more losses than they got wins. And then they look at your conference where they've really struggled. So those two tiebreaker instances really go against the Steelers. It's going to be tough.
Well, let me correct myself. Jacksonville ended up winning that game. I know Trevor Lawrence had 4 touchdown passes. When we came in here, kind of lost track of that game. So technically, they're ahead of the Steelers, I would imagine, if that's the case. But again, it's just very difficult to come up with any scenario that would make you think the Steelers are going to get into postseason. So they're just going to play to try to end up with a winning season. We'll see how that goes. In the meantime, we said we'd give some love to the offensive line, and that's what we're going to do, because those guys, they don't get a lot of attention. Quite frankly, they don't want a lot of attention. Did you ever want attention as a defensive line man?
Yeah, but you just understand you don't get it. So you just go with it. You're just an unselfish player.
Yeah,
but you don't get a lot.
You've turned into such a great TV analyst.
Well,
you're used to this.
Yeah, offensive linemen, they just know they don't get a lot. They're the big uglies, right? They don't get a lot of credit. But they're the reason behind why the Steelers are able to throw the football around, why they can run the football, is because of the big uglies on the front line.
All right. Well, I'm not going to call him ugly. Mason Cole did a very good job again. He was a free agent signing the Steelers brought in. Rich Walsh had a chance to be in the locker room where he talked today in Charlotte.
Yeah, I think the big thing was those third downs. I think we had maybe 2 or 3 third downs on that drive that maybe we were behind the sticks. It was third and long, and just being efficient on third down, getting in more manageable third down situations, which I think early in the year we weren't in a lot of those, and it makes things hard. But when you're in 3rd and 5, it's a little more manageable and easier to convert. So, like I said, man, just a good day at the office.
Do you think you guys getting those 3, 4, 5-yard runs on first down to shorten those sticks really helped you guys? It felt like first down productivity in the past was maybe an issue, but you really were productive on first down.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about all the time in our room how on first down we got to be efficient. If we run the ball and we don't get 3 yards and it's 2nd and 8 or 2nd and 9, good chance we're throwing the ball again. And then if we get incomplete, and then it's 3rd and 9, and we're in the worst situation in football for offensive linemen. So we've had a lot of emphasis on just being efficient on first down. And those muddy kind of 3, 4, 5-yard runs early in the game, they start to get a little looser later in the game, and I think we've seen that the last few weeks.
When did you get that shirt? Is that like a Christmas present? How long have you had that?
They just showed up at the building. Do you like it?
Yeah, I mean, it's appropriate to wear today.
It's got all the guys. I know. I wore it not knowing what kind of game we were going to have, but it turned out to be a good day.
Did you show up like this week, last week? Like recently?
Yeah. We had that. The whole group got some. So
Mitch, you're tight with Mitch. Is it important for him to play the way he did today after last week?
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure it feels good for him. But like I said, we never lost confidence in Mitch. He was playing aggressive last week and made some mistakes and made some turnovers, but it's football. It happens. Those guys get paid a lot of money on the other side of the ball too. So we never lost confidence. We knew the type of player he is. We knew the type of leader he is, and go on the road and have a game like this and we didn't have any turnovers, did we? No turnovers. Yeah. No turnovers. So it was good. It was really good.
Mason Cole has become sort of the spokesperson for that line, and he does a good job. In the locker room, he's always available, and I think he's meant a lot to them. You know, they went out and signed those 2 guys, Mason Cole and James Daniel. Bottom line is they both have been good at what they've done.
They really needed him too after last year with Kendrick Green. Really, the middle of your line needs to be strong and solidified, and Mason Cole has brought that comfort and brought that strength to the middle offensive line. You know, Bob, I say the big uglies. That's a term of endearment. A lot of the offensive linemen were good friends of mine when I played, and these big brothers, a lot of them are better looking than me. So that's the good thing about these guys. But Mason Cole, James Daniels, and you look at Chooks. I mean, we don't talk about Chooks a lot. Chooks is getting the job done. You watch him out there. He is stealing people's grass as he's knocking them back. And across the board, you know, we talk about this offensive line and their impact on the running game. But talk about the pass game. Yeah, Dan Moore's given up some sacks, but largely throughout the season, I mean, they've given up very few sacks. They didn't give up a sack. I gave up 1 sack today, and I mean, when throwing the ball. I mean, I think this offensive line is playing really good football since the bye week and really largely in that passing game throughout the season.
Yeah, I don't think there's any question about that. It makes you wonder now as they head into the draft.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people are going to say, well, you need big-time offensive linemen, and they still do. You can always use guys who are at the top, but you wonder first, second, they have 3 picks in the first 37 or so. That's how it's going to turn up. You wonder how many of those will be offensive linemen.
Well, I think at least one of them's got to be an offensive lineman, right? Because you look, even though I think they're doing a pretty good job, you can improve there. If you can get a guy in the top 15, well, maybe where the Steelers are going to pick, or top 20, that's a guy that can be a fixture for offensive line for a decade. And so that's the kind of guy they got to be looking for. If you get yourself a left guard, maybe a tackle at the left tackle spot, maybe an upgrade there. But other than that, I think that you're going to see them doing that and looking for a corner, Bob, or maybe a defensive lineman.
Or maybe an inside linebacker, too, depending on what happens there with Devin Bush and Miles Jack. Anyway, the guys, as they like to be known, you saw the T-shirt there. One of the guys is Dan Moore, who spoke today after the game.
And Coach T challenged the offensive line at the beginning of the week. So, I mean, we knew what type of game we wanted it to be. And we just went out there. We had to execute. I mean, it's all 11 guys, though. Najee ran great. Quarterback doing really good. Wide receivers catching passes inbounds, man, keeping us in play on possession downs. I mean, it was all 11 guys.
Third down conversions, too. I think it was one of the better performances.
Huge, man. Definitely kept us on the field and extended drives for sure.
How about the run game? You guys kind of knew it was probably going to be a running game back and forth, but the way your defense held them and the way you guys ran the ball.
Yeah, we knew we wanted to gore them up front. Like I said, that was a challenge at the beginning of the week, and we just wanted to go out there and execute it.
How much pressure did that take off Mitch today, the way you guys were able to run the ball?
And I think that takes pressure off of anybody, you know. When you get the run game going, it opens up everything.
45 runs today, just 22 passes. The coaches always talk about 50-50, somewhere in that neighborhood. That's a pretty good endorsement of a run game that they like right now, the way it's going.
Absolutely. Look at 6 games since the bye, I believe it is. And 5 of those 6 games, they've run the ball on an average of 157 yards a game. That's when, they lost the game to the Bengals, but really in that game, when they run the football, they're either going to win or it's going to be a battle to the very end. Last week against the Ravens, they got away from running the ball. I believe it was 20 for 65 yards. And so if the Steelers want to be able to wrap this thing up with 3 strong wins, this is the recipe. Come out, committed to the run, no RPOs, nice big run formations, and let's get the job done up front.
All right, now it's time to take a look into the future here. The Ford Road Ahead, brought to you by your neighborhood Ford store. And again, it's Christmas Eve, 8:15. It's going to be a week of celebration. We have a 1-hour special coming up on the Immaculate. We call it the Immaculate Reflection. It'll be on, Friday night, the 23rd. That's the exact 50-year anniversary date. Take you back and listen to all the great Steelers who were part of that team. That's on Friday night, 8:15. Saturday night on Christmas Eve, the Vegas Raiders come here. And then it is a New Year's Day game at Baltimore before Cleveland rounds it out. Your thoughts on those 3?
Well, listen, I don't know if there's a play in NFL history. There isn't. That changed the story of an NFL franchise like the Immaculate Reception. And those guys, Franco Harris, not only one of the greatest football players for the Pittsburgh Steelers in all time, but it's a gentleman, a good man, and fun to be around. And it's great to be able to celebrate. I can't believe it's been 50 years. I mean, that's a long time. But really, since that time, the Steelers have been one of the top NFL franchises, and it's been exciting to watch and follow.
No question about that. We have plenty of Steeler coverage and the Immaculate Reception, Reflection, even the Immaculate Collections. We're going to show you a bunch of stuff all
what about
week
the extension?
on KDKA. Well, that's a different story for another anniversary day. But we have that all coming up. What we also have coming up are your phone calls on a special edition of the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call. That's up next. You call us. You talk about this game and about what's left of this season at 412-575-2600. Tonight at 11:35 on KDKA, we have the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown. And we'll get into all these topics and more with my panel of Chris Mack, Joe Starkey, and Mark Caboli. That's tonight following the late news on KDKA. Thank you for joining us for the Extra Point. Coming up, it's going to be your calls and opinions on the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call following a Steeler win, 24-16 over the Carolina Panthers to get them to 6 wins, 8 losses. Not mathematically eliminated just yet. Thank you. Yes.